Hello YouTube and welcome back to the channel outside the target demographic. Today we're going to be soundproofing the rear seats. Let's get started. I am taking the opportunity today to clean out the back seat. I pulled the moving blanket I usually keep down as cheap insurance against the two toddlers. I usually have two car seats here to hold the beasts of burden, and all the dirt accumulates there. I'll point it out before you guys do. So tomorrow I will be getting my windows tinted, and that will hopefully help cut down on the heat and humidity that we suffer here in Ohio. I've said before, I'll say it again, I cannot move further north without leaving the country. I don't know why it's 97 degrees and 97% humidity. This is unacceptable, so we're going to do what we can. But while we're in here, since we already have this pulled out, right here and right there will be a latch that I'm going to pull. I'm going to pull this bench seat out, and I'm going to soundproof in here while everything is already removed. Okay, so both of those are pulled. I guess we'll undo this and that. I want to say there's a hook that needs to be cleared in here. So allow me to sort that out. All right, so if you push down, pivot the seat up at the front, down at the rear, and pull, you're gonna have this D-ring clear this hook, okay? So you do that on both sides. There's something that goes somewhere. And then the whole thing will pull out. Now you can see there's some sound deadening, not a lot. And there's also a little bit, not much actually, a little bit of sound and resonance here. So I'm going to use the the Celeste matting. It's much thinner, and I feel like we're going to have a height issue in between the seat in there. Also, this is the latch at the front, and you'll put two fingers around it and pull out, almost like a AR charging handle for those in America. But it's essentially in the center of the seat. You'll reach up underneath, you can get fingers under it or above it. You're going to be in between the cushion and your carpeting. You'll give that a tug, and the seat will lift up. You'll lift up the front, push down the back, clear that hook and the hook on the other side, and your bench comes out. All right, so what a difference a vacuum makes. Speaking of vacuums, if anyone can tell me what that vacuum hose is doing, you will win my admiration. So another couple things we'll see in here is this is your fuel pump. So when it needs to be replaced, you know where it is. I'm not sure what that one does. It says M, so that must be Mario. So I'm going to try covering around this. The first thing I'm going to do is cut a piece on top of this. That's going to keep the accessibility there. So one, I know where this is. I'll just look for the outline. Two, I'll be able to access it to replace it when and if it fails. And then three, any harmonics or resonance coming through the 14 gallon gas tank and the gas sloshing around and all that will be mitigated from coming into the cabin. So I'm going to use paper towel, rubbing alcohol, clean up what the vacuum did it, get the grease and what appears to be the remnants of a gummy bear long forgotten out of here, mitigate smells, as I do have two toddlers, and get this prepped to add the deadener and then the Celeste matting. All right, and as I've said before, if your rag is dirty, your time was not wasted. So we cleaned up quite a bit. I know I want to make sure that these hatches are still accessible, so I'm going to apply some deadener in a couple places, and we will see what that looks like. For the record, we are now into the next box of 10 of these Noiko deadening mats. So I have a half sheet remaining. I'm going to use that on my B column because I've already done one of the B columns. You will need a knife and a red non-permanent dry eraser marker. So let's go ahead, and this will come in play later. This will come in play now. Let's cut it up. So we have a few pieces applied, half a strip, full strip, half strip, and then the same on the other side. We are fighting losing the sun and gaining the rain. So that's as far as we're going to go today. I will come back tomorrow morning and we'll get this squared away. We're going to add a few more pieces of the deadener, especially on the caps. And then we're going to use the Celeste matting to insulate it the rest of the way. So there's the Thunder. I'm outside the target demographic. We will be adding to this. So see you tomorrow. New day, less rain. Let's get back to it. I'm not sure what that material is. It is pretty thick. There's not a lot of it. So I am probably going to put a strip over that. I want to do a little bit on there and on there. I need to do this middle portion. The middle portion is I think it's called the transmission tunnel, but Subaru all-wheel drive all the time, mechanical, not electronic. So there is a axle that travels down the middle of the car to the rear wheels and spins them. So you have a bump that goes all the way through the car, and that will make space underneath the car for the axle. So this is going to have a lot of chatter coming from it. The exhaust, the muffler system also goes through this channel. So I am going to want to put 1, 2, maybe 3 pieces on that, quiet it down. So we're going to do a little bit there and there, a little bit there. That's it for the noise deadener. You only have to do 30% coverage with that sheet. And then we'll cover it up with the Celeste insulation matting. There are 2 surfaces here. We have the inner circle and the outer ring. And it's going to be best. I had the single sheet cut into eighths. This is half of an eighth. And I want it where I'm not going to cover up the nomenclature. I'm not going to cover up the screws, and I'm not going to cover up the nomenclature. So thinking something like this. And we have about 1/3 of the sheet in contact with the outer ring. The rest is in contact with the groove and the circle. There's it before. Okay. This material has a paper backing. It's almost like a rubber tar material. I don't think I've shown that yet. Okay. So I'm going to start with the 2 outer edges. So you see I've only done the 1 row of diamonds. Now I'm going to form it, which is going to leave this angled up. If this is too pronounced of an angle, you can just cut a relief slit and it'll fold over on itself. I don't think we're going to run into that issue here. We are not. Okay. So I press it into place as best I can with my fingers, and then I use the roller. The one side, I took a knife edge and kind of sliced it down into a 45-degree angle. This one's a little sharper. You're just going to roll as much of the surface as you can. Okay. So this surface in there, I can't get the roller into, but I can get the handle into. If you just drag the handle around like that, you got a much better surface adhesion. So we're good to go. We now have, that already sounds denser. So that's all you need for that. I am going to cut, I think I have exactly this much remaining. So I'm going to slice that again. I'm going to put it there and there. Again, we only need 30% coverage with this stuff. You run into diminishing returns. So much better than it was. Let's go ahead and start cutting the Celeste matting. The Celeste mats are a foam, open cell foam, and that's going to insulate any noise out. So the back of this is also paper. This one has grids, so you can use it to lay it down and cut it out. I'm going to start off with this guy. And I think what I'm going to attempt to do is the foam has some memory if you, let's say hypothetically, but also in reality, set a box on it. So I'm going to try crushing this into place. And it does kind of retain some dents, and that's going to help me know how big to trace it. The other solution, I showed in another video, and that's doubling up a sheet of aluminum foil from the kitchen. Makes it twice as thick. I can, with 2 hands, lay that out, and that's going to give me the outline, and I can lay that on one of the sheets and cut it. So let's give that a try. So not terrible, actually. Depends on how the mold would have been set down. I'm gonna say like that because it makes me look better. So we'll cut this the rest of the way. I'm gonna cut a slice into it, be able to run that cable up through, right? So slide this through the cable and then turn it. And that's going to allow so we'll put the cut here. This is now not going to drum against the metal. It's going to have the insulation in between it and silence the drum beat there. All right, not bad. Much quieter. Now we can do the other side, and I can seal up around it with more flat sheets. And since we cut a circle out of a square, that square can now be used to fill in around that circle and make your life a little easier. All right, so again, that just fits right around the circle. With the red marker, what I've been using it for is marking either where screws are, and I'll know to peel the material up and re-expose them, or let's say you have a connector that pushes into the metal, or you have one of the connectors that holds the plastic. I can put a mark to indicate where that's going to be. And when I try playing Battleship and pushing this back through the material, let's say I'm trying to connect something here, I'm going to be pushing around until I feel the recess, and then I'm going to punch it through. Having a indicator will at least give me one of 2 axes, so I know where it's going to be, and the cable will have a memory to it. So if I flex it and release it, it's going to return back to its original shape, plus or minus 10%, right? So I'm going to more easily, more accurately be able to find that punch. So take this guy, put it right here. And then if I were so inclined, I could wet my thumb or a sandy wipe or alcohol wipe or something, and I can delete that if I'm looking for appearance, which I'm not, because form over function. And oh yeah, I can't see through foam. So what I did is, this is a single sheet. I cut it with flaps that I left the paper on, so I can still get access to those bolts should I need to. And in the meantime, that's still going to act as an insulating layer to insulate out that metal. You'll remember that pointed me to the post. This one is exposed, which makes life a little easier. Most of them are recessed, so you're going to be trying to find a hole in the metal instead of a post. But not only does that insulate the wire from hitting, it's also going to insulate that connector, so it's not going to vibrate and buzz through the metal because it has the insulation insulating it. Pretty nice. Let's keep going. Another tip for the video, start with about 20% of the sheet unpeeled. That will allow you to set your corners, butt it up, essentially, up against the last layer. And now you can peel the rest of the sheet off and slowly start applying it where it needs to go. I would use as many full sheets as you can, and then start worrying about piecemealing the areas you weren't able to get to. Just like a coat, be closer to one piece of fabric you have for the coat, the better the insulation is going to be. So you can see even without rolling, that made quite the difference. You are going to want to adhere it to as much of the surface as you can. It is foam in that it will rebound a little bit, so push it down pretty good, allow the adhesive to adhere, and then you can roller it if you want to, but let's go ahead and throw down a few more sheets. So I laid the sheet, butted up against here, pushed it down as best I could, cut out a rough approximation. It's decent enough. As proof of concept, we have red, red, red. We knew this one goes there, right? So now I can feel in line with this. It's going to be about where the wire sits anyways. And you'll punch around in that area until you feel the recession, which in this case is that little circle. Nice. Okay. So it's going to be right there. We have a circle. We're going to push it through. That's going to give you a better mechanical connection. The wires are not going to be flapping so much, and the contact will not be buzzing and vibrating as much because we took the time to mark where the indents are. So we've used 4 sheets so far, and we've covered the grand majority of the bench. Now we're going to have to do our rough cuts and fill in the rest. Shouldn't take too much longer. So with 5.5 sheets of coverage, we did the rear bench seat. Should sound much quieter. We will test that once we get the seat assembled. The seats are reassembled, and we are done for the day. I'll remind you, the excellent part of this project is you don't have to finish the whole car in one go. So if this weekend you have the availability to do the seat, do the seat, and it will add up, stack up, and give you a better and better sounding car the further you get in. This is outside the target demographic. I appreciate you guys stopping by as always. Any questions, comments, concerns you have, leave them in the comments section below. And until the next video, I'll see you guys next time.